Somewhere on a factory floor in China right now, a vehicle just rolled off the assembly line with more usable square footage than most American apartments, a power system that never needs to touch a plug, and walls that unfold into a full two-story home in under 6 minutes. It has no mortgage, no property tax bill, no permanent address tying it to one patch of dirt for the next 30 years. And it might be the reason nobody feels the need to buy a $5 million mansion ever again. This is not a concept sketch on some designer's laptop. This is a real, drivable, sleepable machine, and it is already turning heads in an industry that has not changed its core idea in almost a century. If you're enjoying videos like this, do me a favor and hit that like button. It genuinely helps this channel keep growing. And subscribe so you don't miss what comes next, because this story gets stranger the deeper you go. To understand why this new machine is such a threat to the mansion industry, you first have to understand exactly what a mansion actually is. Not the marble floors, not the chandeliers, the actual mechanics underneath the fantasy. A mansion, at its core, is a bet. It's a bet that a piece of land will hold its value, that the neighborhood around it won't change, that the roof won't need replacing for 20 years, that property taxes won't climb faster than your income, and that you'll still want to live in the exact same spot a decade from now. It is, in almost every sense, the least flexible purchase a human being can make. You are anchoring your entire life, your family, your finances, your freedom to a fixed set of coordinates on a map. And the price of that anchor has become genuinely absurd. In major American cities, the kind of home that would have been considered comfortably upper middle class 30 years ago now costs more than most people will earn across their entire working life. Property taxes alone on a large home can run tens of thousands of dollars a year, money you pay every single year, forever, just for the privilege of staying put. Add in insurance, maintenance, HVAC repairs, roofing, landscaping, and the slow bleed of a mansion is not the down payment. It's everything that comes after. There's also a hidden cost nobody talks about at the open house. Mansions are enormous, and enormous things are expensive to heat, cool, insure, and repair, no matter how efficient the materials are. A 10,000 square foot house isn't just 10 times the cost of a 1,000 square foot house. It's more like 15 or 20 times the ongoing headache, because bigger structures fail in more places, more often. So for decades, the ultra-wealthy have quietly wrestled with an uncomfortable question. What if the biggest status symbol in the world, the giant, immovable house, is actually the least efficient way to live large? What if true luxury isn't about the size of your walls, but about the freedom to not need walls at all? That question has been sitting in the back of engineering labs for a long time, and it turns out the beginnings of an answer showed up decades ago, in a form nobody took seriously. Back in the 1970s and 80s, the very first luxury motorhomes started appearing in America. They were clunky, they were heavy, they guzzled fuel like a jet engine and offered barely more comfort than a tent on wheels. A luxury RV back then meant a slightly nicer couch and maybe a small shower that dribbled lukewarm water if you were lucky. Nobody with real money considered these things a replacement for a house. They were toys, vacation gadgets. Something you towed to a campsite twice a year and forgot about the rest of the time. The core problem was almost identical to the problem that held back other big engineering leaps of that era. The technology to make a vehicle feel like a home simply didn't exist yet. You needed massive amounts of electricity to run air conditioning, refrigeration, lighting, and water systems, but the batteries of that era were heavy, weak, and needed constant recharging from a noisy, gas-guzzling generator. You needed structural materials light enough to keep the vehicle mobile, but strong enough to survive real weather, and those materials were either too heavy, too fragile, or too expensive to produce at scale. And you needed a way to make a small, boxy vehicle actually feel spacious, and nobody had cracked that puzzle yet either. For nearly 50 years, that was the wall. Engineers could make a vehicle that moved, they could make a house that felt like a home, but nobody could merge the two without a massive compromise on one side or the other. If you wanted comfort, you sacrificed mobility. If you wanted mobility, you sacrificed comfort. It was the same frustrating trade-off, generation after generation, prototype after prototype, quietly stuck in engineering purgatory. That is, until a wave of Chinese manufacturers decided to attack the problem from a completely different angle, using tools that simply didn't exist for those earlier engineers. Modern battery chemistry, lightweight composite panels, and expandable architecture borrowed from aerospace design. Here's the piece that changes everything. Instead of trying to cram a fixed house shape into a fixed vehicle shape, the new generation of Chinese-built motorhomes throw out the idea of a fixed shape entirely. The exterior shell you see driving down the highway is only a fraction of the real living space. Hidden inside the walls, floor, and roof are sections that mechanically unfold once the vehicle is parked, hydraulically sliding outward and upward to more than double, in some designs nearly triple, the usable interior area within minutes. Picture a shape that looks like an ordinary sleek touring coach while it's on the road. Then picture that same vehicle parked, and watch as entire wall panels slide outward on rails, the roof lifts and locks into place to create a second story, and floor sections extend to form a wraparound deck. What started as a vehicle roughly the size of a large delivery truck can, within 6 minutes, transform into a structure with the footprint of a small home, complete with a full kitchen, a separate bedroom loft, a real shower and toilet, and in some of the top-tier models, a fold-out rooftop terrace with glass railings. The trick that makes this possible isn't just clever hinges, it's what's powering the whole system. These vehicles run on massive, energy-dense battery packs, the same lineage of battery technology that has been quietly getting cheaper and more powerful year after year inside electric cars. Paired with rooftop solar panels that unfold along with the walls, the vehicle can generate and store enough power to run air conditioning, refrigeration, induction cooktops, and full lighting systems for days without ever needing to plug into anything. No generator noise, no diesel fumes. No searching for an RV hookup at a crowded campground. That single change, going from a noisy, limited generator system to a silent, self-sufficient battery and solar setup, is the exact same kind of bottleneck-breaking moment that other industries have quietly gone through. It's the difference between an idea that works in theory and an idea that actually works in your driveway. The old luxury motorhomes of the 1980s had the dream. They just didn't have the power system to make the dream livable. This new generation finally does. And once you remove the power problem, everything else starts falling into place. Water systems can now run advanced filtration and recycling loops, meaning the vehicle can go far longer between refills. Climate control can maintain a stable indoor temperature even in extreme heat or cold, something earlier motorhomes were famously terrible at. And because the structural panels are now built from lightweight aerospace-grade composites instead of heavy steel framing, the whole unit weighs dramatically less than you'd expect for something with this much interior space, which means it can still be towed or driven without needing an industrial-grade truck to move it. Think about what that actually means for a moment. A vehicle that drives like a large touring coach on the highway then transforms into something resembling a modern architectural home once it's parked, powered entirely by the sun and a battery pack, with no ongoing property tax, no fixed location, and no 30-year mortgage attached to it. That's not an upgraded camper. That is a direct assault on the entire premise of the traditional mansion. Because here's the uncomfortable question this technology forces us to ask. If you can get the square footage, the comfort, the kitchen, the shower, the private bedroom, and even a rooftop terrace, all without being nailed to one location, all without the endless property tax bill, all without 20 years of roof repairs and HVAC replacements, what exactly is the mansion still offering that this machine can't? Status, maybe. There's still something to be said for a driveway full of stone columns and a home address that signals wealth to everyone who drives by. But even that argument is starting to crack, because the ultra-wealthy have always chased one thing above almost everything else: freedom. Freedom from obligation, freedom from being tied down, freedom to change their mind, and a fixed mansion, no matter how beautiful, is fundamentally a cage built out of comfort. You can't drive it to a better view. You can't relocate it when the neighborhood changes. You can't take it with you if you decide, on a whim, that you want to wake up next to the ocean instead of the mountains. A transforming motorhome erases that cage entirely. Wake up bored of the desert? Fold the walls back in, drive 4 hours, unfold them again next to a lake. Want to spend winter somewhere warm without owning 2 separate properties? Just drive south. The entire concept of vacation home becomes obsolete when your primary home can simply relocate itself. And the ripple effects of this technology reach far beyond just wealthy buyers looking for a new toy. Once you build a vehicle that can expand into a fully functional living space powered entirely by its own battery and solar system, you've accidentally created a tool with uses in almost every corner of the economy. Think about disaster relief. When hurricanes, Earthquakes or wildfires destroy entire neighborhoods. The slowest part of recovery is always housing. Temporary shelters are cramped, generators are loud and require constant fuel deliveries, and traditional trailers take up huge amounts of road space to transport. A fleet of these expandable, self-powered units could be driven directly into a disaster zone and unfolded within minutes into genuinely livable spaces. No fuel deliveries required, no waiting for the power grid to come back online. Think about remote work. As more companies embrace fully remote positions, a growing number of people no longer need to live near an office at all. A luxury mobile home that can expand into real living space anywhere with decent parking removes the last real argument for staying rooted in an expensive city. Why pay big city rent to be near an office you visit twice a month when your entire home can simply follow you to wherever the view, the cost of living, or the mood strikes you? Think about hospitality. Boutique hotel chains and glamping resorts have already started exploring vehicles like this as a way to install instant luxury suites in remote, scenic locations without the years-long process of pouring concrete foundations and running permanent power lines. Drop a handful of these units at the edge of a canyon or along a quiet coastline, unfold them, and you've got a 5-star suite up and running in an afternoon with the option to relocate the entire property to a new site next season if the first one doesn't perform. And there's an even stranger frontier hiding behind all of this: research and expedition use. Scientists working in extremely remote environments, Arctic research stations, desert survey camps, disaster response medical units have always struggled with the same core problem this motorhome just solved. How do you get real, livable comfort into a place with no infrastructure at all? A vehicle that can drive itself to a remote location, unfold into livable space, and run entirely on stored solar power solves a problem that used to require helicopters, fuel convoys, and months of setup. What began as a fancy camper for wealthy retirees has quietly turned into a blueprint for how humans might live untethered from fixed infrastructure altogether. But before you get too carried away imagining a future where nobody ever buys a mansion again, it's worth being honest about where this technology actually stands right now. These expandable motorhomes are still an emerging category, not a mainstream product sitting on every dealership lot. The manufacturers building the most advanced versions are, for now, producing them in relatively small numbers, and the price tags on the top-tier expandable models can rival, and in some cases exceed, the cost of a modest suburban house. The battery packs large enough to power a full home's worth of appliances for days at a time are still expensive to manufacture, and the hydraulic systems that fold walls and roofs in and out reliably, year after year, without jamming or leaking, require an extremely high level of engineering precision that not every manufacturer has mastered yet. There's also the simple matter of durability. A traditional house doesn't have hinges, hydraulic arms, or moving wall panels that need to survive thousands of expansion and retraction cycles without failing. Every moving part on a vehicle like this is one more thing that could eventually wear out, and unlike a stationary mansion, a breakdown in the middle of nowhere isn't just inconvenient, it can leave you stranded. Manufacturers are racing to prove these systems can survive years of real-world use, not just a showroom demo. Then there's the regulatory maze. Roads have weight limits, parking regulations vary wildly from state to state, and many places still don't have clear rules for a vehicle that legally counts as a home. Local governments built entire tax systems around the assumption that homes stay in one place, and a genuinely mobile luxury residence doesn't fit neatly into any existing box. Some of the biggest hurdles standing between this technology and mainstream adoption aren't even mechanical, they're bureaucratic. And yet, every major shift in how people live has faced exactly this same starting point. Early electric cars were slow, expensive, and had almost no charging infrastructure to support them. Yet, within about a decade, they went from niche curiosity to a genuine mainstream alternative on nearly every road in the world. Solar panels were once so expensive that only research labs and government satellites could justify the cost, and now they sit quietly on millions of ordinary rooftops. The pattern is always the same. A breakthrough shows up looking clunky, expensive, and impractical. Then a handful of stubborn engineers spend a decade quietly refining it. and one day it simply becomes normal. If that same pattern holds here, and there's a real argument that the underlying battery and materials technology is advancing faster than almost anything else in modern engineering, then the idea of a folding, solar-powered, mansion-rivaling vehicle stops sounding like science fiction and starts sounding like the next logical step in how humans choose to live. There's something almost poetic about where this leaves us. For thousands of years, the ultimate symbol of human success has been permanence. Build the biggest structure you can, plant it in the ground, and let it stand as proof that you made it. Pyramids, castles, mansions, all of it rooted in the same ancient instinct: bigger and more permanent equals more powerful. And now, quietly, in a factory in China, a small group of engineers may be rewriting that instinct entirely, not by building something bigger and more permanent, but by building something that refuses to be tied down at all. A machine that gives you the comfort of a mansion and the freedom of a nomad, all folded into a single vehicle that can be anywhere you want it to be by tomorrow morning. The mansion isn't gone yet, not even close, but for the first time in a very long time, it finally has real competition, and that competition doesn't come with a 30-year mortgage attached. So here's a question worth sitting with. If you could have every comfort of a luxury home, but it could drive anywhere you wanted, whenever you wanted, with no property tax and no fixed address, would you still want the mansion? Let me know what you'd choose in the comments. If you liked this one, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss the next deep dive, and hit that like button. It really does help this channel grow.